Many of us think that we suffer from anxiety. What we really suffer from, I think, is our thoughts about people, events, conversations, and problems, not the actual things themselves. The Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus tells us that what upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgment about these things. Most of our worry comes from the anticipation that something's going to happen. If we're going to meet new people, we might be anxious about how we'll come across, how we dress, how we laugh, how we make conversation, how we respond, all that stuff. And as a matter of actual experience, the initial anxieties that sometimes hold us back don't exist anywhere besides in our own head. They haven't happened yet, and they likely aren't going to happen. What's here now when we're anxious as a matter of experience is just our thoughts about what might happen. And these thoughts are manageable with the use of a few simple Stoic techniques. Name it, observe it, and test it. Name it, the first one, is the simple act of naming and kind of recognizing what you are actually anxious about. And this has a surprisingly calming effect. But we don't often even take the time to name our anxieties. We just get swept away by them. Naming our anxiety tends to diffuse the charge and lessen the emotional weight of the experience. And if we have any chance at reducing our anxiety, we need to know what we're up against. We need to know what we're anxious about. And the first step is naming it, is narrativizing it, putting words to it. This step gives us the power to step back and make a clear choice about what we're going to actually do next. In this small, sort of brief window is where a lot of behavior change actually occurs. Emotions tend to build up in the body when we don't express them. And verbalizing what we feel in simple terms helps in containing and managing even the most complex emotions. It also helps us realize that we may actually not be anxious about what we think we're anxious about. Taking our earlier analogy about going out with people that we don't know well, let's say that we're about to leave the house to meet new people and we feel anxious about it. We have the butterflies on our stomach, thoughts and images flashing of people's faces looking at us, the feeling of being judged. Maybe we rehearse our first line, like, hey, good to see you. Like, oh, that's not right. And we imagine like the way to hold our face while we say that first line and the right way to intonate our voice. This is the time to pause and name this as anxiety. I'm anxious to go out. I'm anxious to meet new people. So we named it. What do we do next? We observe it. So after we name the anxiety, we watch it. So we take a breath or two and look at the anxiety. What is it? Where is it? Typically, it's bits of language, flashing images of an imagined future, or somatic sensations in the body. And the goal is to slow down and to watch what is actually happening in your mind and body with a bit of non-judgmental distance. And the less we identify with the feeling of anxiety, the less anxious we are. And a regular mindfulness practice can be a great tool for moments like this. Now, the Stoic Seneca says that true happiness is to enjoy the present without an anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. And as we watch our thoughts and observe what's actually inside, we notice the fear is in the future, not here. But more accurately, the fear is in our imaginings of the future, not even the actual future that we're going to live through or that we imagine we have to endure. So the third thing we should try is thought testing, which is an ancient Stoic technique that was actually adopted and used by cognitive behavior therapists like myself in modern psychotherapeutic contexts. So let's take the thought that we identified earlier. I'm anxious to go out and meet new people. What are we anxious about here? Are we anxious about leaving the front door? Probably not. Are we anxious about saying hello? We could probably manage that. Are we anxious about a slight pause in conversation? No, we've paused in conversations and we've been fine. We've all had the feeling of going out to do something scary, doing it, and then realizing it wasn't so bad. And typically there is no single moment in a social interaction that is so unbearable that it causes us to spontaneously combust from anxiety. Our anxiety is self-made and usually only exists between our ears and not in the world around us. So during anxious moments, some of us will notice thoughts like, I'm going to embarrass myself when I start talking. So using the Socratic method, let's test it. Let's ask ourselves a few simple questions to test the validity of this thought. So question 1 could be, can I provide actual evidence that supports the thought, I'm going to embarrass myself when I start talking? Question 2, have there been times when I haven't embarrassed myself when I started talking? Question 3, what do I mean by embarrass myself? What does that actually mean to me? Question 4, if I do embarrass myself, is that something that I can handle? And question 5, how will I feel if I don't go out because of a set of false beliefs that I have about myself and the world around me? And keep asking questions and testing the thought like this until it dissolves. And it typically will. So if you want to deal with anxiety like a Stoic, name it, observe it, and test it.